Hi guys, welcome to I Don't Believe in Ghosts, but episode 2. I hope you enjoyed the first one. Thank you for all the great feedback we've had. People with questions, different feedback about the format we're doing. Sound quality, yeah, it can get better, but this is where we need you. We need you to subscribe. If anybody wants to sponsor us, anybody wants to advertise, yes, please email us, and then they'll give us some money to buy better quality sound equipment. As I said before there, please hit subscribe because that's the big thing for us. And tell all your friends. This episode, it's the same as the last, was split into 3 parts. The first part we're just going to talk between ourselves. We've got an idea what we're going to talk about. Second part, a little bit about Jedburgh Jail, because that's where we are tonight. So we're going to be a bit of history and the ghost stories of Jedburgh Jail. And we'll talk about the ghosts experiences we've done. And we've got some community questions at the end as well, so thank you for everybody who has sent us all their questions. And we'll answer a couple of them at the end. So, we may as well get stuck in. So, how are you been?
Mostly terrified for the last 2 hours.
How's the world of podcasting?
Well, I know, it's tough, like, it's up, isn't it? The fame and the fortune.
Have you recognised yet?
I can't stop signing autographs, it's good fun.
I wish. I thought what we'd talk about equipment. Mm-hmm. It gets talked about quite a lot, and today we'll be all over with dice and Frank's box. I asked a lot, what's your favourite piece of equipment? And with my usual response is my eyes and my ears. Because I know they don't play tricks and they're mine, and they're my experience. If we're looking at equipment, I do like a bit of Frank's box. Yes. That's why it's with us. I'm starting like at dice, because I started. I can't work them out.
Well, I always tell everybody about the dice because I get so fixated on the probabilities and the chances of those things happening that when something's coming up 4, 5, 6 times in a row, you've got to start to question it, haven't you? You've got to think, why is this happening so much?
I think that's what it is. I think when you ask a question and you roll the dice and you get an answer to your question, and I'm not talking, guys, we're not talking about 3-letter words like bed, Tom, Joe, them sort of words, you know what I mean? If you're asking it, I go to the first time I ever used them was on a live link. I think it's on a YouTube channel actually, that it was live. And I'd seen these dice used on a film, and I can't remember what the film was. It wasn't exactly dice, he had stones or like runes or letters. Yeah. And we went and got the dice and can we put the 2 of them together and make this experiment? Which we did. And the first time I used them properly, I was live with Jowl, and on the video it's still there. I says, who pays your wage? And I rolled the dice, coal board came out. That's what coal board, what, 9 letters? 9 letters? Yeah. Out of 12 dice. I was like, So I picked them up again. I says, so where did you work if the coal board paid your wage? They came out Jowl Coke. Jowl Hall, where we were, is built on the coke. The coke mines, the coke, Jowl Coke, that's what we're built on. I feel really cold, they're like excited and scared. And a couple of times after that, I think it was, what did you do then? I got miner. That miner's only 5 letters, so
it fits.
Do you know what I mean? But it fits directly. As I say, you watch this live, I didn't ask the question 6 times and kept rolling till we got something. I didn't ask the question once and rolled the dice, it came out. You know, since then, I always think that I'm doing the dice. I've never had Jowl Coke or coal board ever
in a different place, I know.
So see, that was about 8, 9 years, 8 or 9 years ago. So all the time I've rolled the dice in the last 8 or 9 years, I've never had that response. So it's not a word that you constantly
it's not. No.
And that gets us, you know, I mean, you're the mathematician. So you can work out the odds. Yeah. And I don't know if that's what it's just, is it coincidence?
There's always going to be an argument for it, isn't it? And that's why we say you can make your own mind up at the end of the day. But I can't get past Hull. When we went to Hull, Aniston Funeral Parlour, for the first time we went as a team and we sat in the Blue Room, I think it was, wasn't it? And we always start with, tell me a name. It's one of our first 5 questions that we ask, and we've got a few different names, but we noticed Eustace. 7 letters, quite an unusual name, not very common, certainly not now, maybe a little bit back then. But we got Eustace around about 6 or 7 times, I would say. Now, you know, if you came along on a ghost hunt, you know, if you roll the dice, you can practice that yourself, you can try it, but it can't be forced. It's one of those things that your mind can't play tricks on you. You can't imagine it into being. So for something to come out that many times, you've got to start thinking, is there a chance that this could actually be something? Yeah, and that's the magic of it. That's why I love the dice.
And I think when, like you see with Alison, when you get an answer like this, and then they always shouted, and we were getting responses on K2 to that name.
Yes.
Then you start to go, hold on, so we've got that there. It's now responding when we're asking about it there. And then it keeps going back with, can it be coincidence? There's got to be something in it. Do you know what I mean? So probably that's why I go back to the dice being one of my favourites, because like they say, it's not something to be forced. It's there, it's an interpretation. And I mean, when you roll the dice, there's 101 words come out. So, I mean, for instance, if you roll tonight, what's your name? Well, they didn't come out, well, their names came out, but what's the point? That's not what I'm asking. Do you know what I mean? So you just move on, don't you? It's when you get that direct hit, when you roll it, and just think and it answers your questions, and then it's a strange one. And that probably as well with the Frank's box, because we do now link them together.
Yes, we've started to do that.
So the Frank's box, if you don't know, guys, it's a portable radio, just like you have in the house. You press scan, goes through the radio stations, and it's meant to stop on the station you want to listen to. It's altered so it doesn't stop, you just keep scanning. And you call out, and the thought is spirit, ghost, whatever you want to call it, uses the box to highlight words on the radio to talk to you. When they put it like that, you speak about it, even I'm thinking, that just sounds madness. I mean, we're sitting here in Jedburgh, and it's got all the different scientific tools I've been inventing in Scotland. I'm thinking, Stephen, you're sounding mad, it talks you through the radio. But when the experience is happening, and again, like dice, and it answers you one after the other. I mean, one of the good stories was the portal I was using actually, which is a variation. And I remember being a clothesburn. Yeah. And we'd had stuff happening, and I just turned on, I just switched the portal on. And I turned on and says, so who are you? And it stopped on the song, the King of the Castle, the dance song, the King of the Castle. Now, it could be coincidence, I don't know, but I'm sitting in Clothesburn Castle in the main chamber. Who are you? And it stops on the song King of the Castle, where I haven't heard since the 90s, to be honest. And it's like then you start to get, oh, is this just pure coincidence? Or you get the words in Jedburgh, and it's good, we're in Jedburgh, talking the swear words, the profanities. And I'm not talking about the mild ones, I'm talking about the ones that aren't allowed to be broadcast. The C bombs and the F bombs. And you get them and you're like, what radio stations are broadcasting their words?
Well, they can't be,
you know what I mean?
So then you take that out of the equation, and then you've got to think, well, what am I left with? And then that's where you start getting scared.
What have you experienced with I think you've experienced stuff with it,
We've had some cracking things in here, which is quite interesting. We're talking about the words that we hear from the Frank's box and the responses to questions on command, which is great, and that's the sort of stuff that we look for. But there are a few locations that we've visited over the years, time and time again, and this being one of them. In fact, this very room, where if we use the Frank's box, we seem to get a particular phenomenon that happens, which links to the history of the building.
Yes.
So, you know, not to give too many spoilers away, but a particular sound that people who were living hundreds of years ago would have expected to hear. And we know that as, you know, people who are facilitating the night, but what's great is when the guests pick up on that and they haven't been prompted and they say, oh, that sounds like a particular sound. And then I start to get excited because I think, well, okay, this is happening. And it doesn't happen in any other locations. You know, we're fortunate enough to do, 50, 60 different locations. And it's unique to this place here.
I think as well, when you take them around the corner and show them a particular item that's in the museum, and they've just listened and witnessed to what they've heard on the radio, and you see them look and say, whoa,
that's
and
right.
you get the guests go, oh, what's going on, don't you?
But the fact that as well, I mean, you've said it's scanning different radio stations, so I always explain it to people who've never seen it before about if you want to buy a new car and you're programming in your favourite radio stations and it sort of gets through all the different frequencies and then it stops on something. Well, I'm taking it back to, there's probably 2 locations where it's happened. I think one's the Royal Theatre in Sunderland, and the other one I think was Blythe Masonic, where we were continuing with the experiment, we were asking our questions, and the Frank's box stopped, which you've said it's not supposed to stop, but it does from time to time, and we don't know why that happens, but it stopped on really eerie, ominous music, and from a scientific point of view, that's scanning through radio. So if it stops, it should be people talking or music, the things that you would expect to hear on the radio. I think you were there for one of the ones at Blythe, actually. Just a really intense, sort of suspenseful sound, and
it was like a classic horror film.
It was, wasn't it?
Horror film sound, wasn't it? Horror film music, like the 30s and 40s that go back to the Hammer House and before that.
That's right.
And it was like that sort of real, like, when you were a kid, you would have been like that.
Hiding behind the cushion. I certainly would have.
But where was that?
Where does it come from? That's it. But again, that's the beauty of it. And what we've started to do now is to marry up the scientific evidence or scientific routine with the Frank's box, with the psychic tools as well. Because we always discuss it's interesting to see which kind of spirits interact with different pieces of kit. And actually we've brought those 2 things together and it's made the things even more powerful. So when you were talking earlier about clothes burn, I was thinking about one of the experiments that we did, which actually was over the radio. Can you remember? You were, I don't know where you were. You were in
I was in the basement. I was right down in the bottom.
And you were asking the questions over the radio, and I think I was up top floor with the dice, and then there was a group who were in the middle floor with the portal or the Frank's box, one of the speaking experiments, and then we were relaying the things that we got.
I think what was so stunning was I was in the basement asking the question, but not over the radio at this point. So the people in the basement knew what I was saying. You were on the top floor.
I think we were top.
We had another 2 on the middle floor. So we sort of, there's 4 floors, so there's gaps between. And I'm asking the bottom, and then going on the radio and saying, right, I've asked the question.
What have you got?
What's the answer? And you, the other team, are giving me answers directly to this question I've seen. And the guests that were us at the bottom, the guys that were at the bottom, they're just looking going, how can that be?
No.
You must have preloaded the questions. So I changed it, I went, right, so let's rule out that preloaded any sort of questions. You ask the questions. So the guests then, they ask their own random questions. I went on the radio, questions being asked. That's the answer. And the guys were sitting there going, oh. I said, so that means I'll be able to get questions or us talking to each other secretly. You asked it, I can't tell them. And I remember the guys in the basement like, well, actually, there was someone talking about it the other day. It was someone actually talking about it the other day. On the ghost stuff we were doing. And they were saying, we were close when you done this. Because they asked one of the questions.
And what I will add as well,
it sticks in people's minds.
What you probably don't know, but what we see from time to time is he'll come in, his face is lit up to go, I've got an idea, I'm going to run with this tonight. So we'll go, alright, okay, interesting, what's this? Oh, I'm not telling you. So these experiments, they come out of nowhere, we haven't got a clue what's coming until we get there on the night time.
I don't think I've got a clue. Wait, just do that.
But there have been some fantastic things over the years where we thought, well, we've got an experiment here that's similar to something that we use, to scry mirrors and things, for example, that we've slightly adapted to see how we get results with. And actually, those are some of the best things, because we have our kit boxes which we use, we have our main experiments, but sometimes when we do slight variations on things that are quite popular, that leads to really interesting results as well.
That time when we come up with, there was between 2 of the
Harry Price
portal. I call it Harry Price portal for the simple reason is we used to learn what Harry Price used to do. Harry Price was around in the 40s, to the 30s and 40s, and was famous for paranormal investigating. And we used some of his work, what he did with some of the stuff we do, and we come up with this experiment, and we thought, and it was on the spur, wasn't it? Why don't we just try it? And it turned out really well.
It was very good.
It turned out really well, so yeah, I think some of the experiments sometimes just come out the window. And I've always said from the start, when I've done this from the start, I always wanted to mix science with psychic. So if you've got 1,000 rods and a moving, if you've got a K2 science, is there energies going on above the do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean up the two and see what's going on. So that's a bit about our favourite equipment. We will talk more about equipment in further podcasts. But you tell us what's your favourite equipment, what do you like doing, what experiments do you like, what experiments don't you like. Let me know, and we can talk about them on future podcast episodes, because the same we want you guys to really get involved and email us. You can email us at ghostpodcast@hotmail.com. You can go on our website, ghostnortheast.co.uk, and send us a message that way. Send us a message through YouTube and the various streaming platforms. But also remember to subscribe. That's the main thing. So, I'm going to run a little quick video about Jedburgh. It's only a couple of minutes long, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about this building. Jedburgh, small village in southern Scotland, is nestled in a valley of the Cheviot Hills, a few miles north of the English-Scottish border. You'll find, due to the valleys surrounding it and Jedwater, the river runs through it, there has been settlements here since time began, really. We're going to jump forward to the 1100s, which is when the abbey appeared at the bottom of the hill. The ruins of the abbey still stand there today, but up on the hill was the castle. Jedburgh Castle dates back to the 12th century. It stood proudly on top of the hill, looking over the village and protecting its people. And it stayed there for 200 years or more. It changed hands between the Scottish and English many times during them 200 years, making it the most swapped castle in Britain. In the 1400s, during the wars of Scottish independence, the castle was demolished as the Scots and English again fought over this much sought after castle. It's said that it was demolished by a Scots commander called Sir James Douglas, and the castle went into ruin from 1409. This area was unused till later on, where it appears in the 16th century, named as Gallows Hill. This was where the executions would take place, on Gallows Hill. In 1823, a jail was then built on the hill where the castle once stood. A lot of the castle's stone was used to build the jail. The jail, becoming famous, held its own executions. The executions may have been held in the same place as the old gallows before the jail existed. It's debatable because the gallows are said to be either on the exercise circle that's there now, the men's block, or some believe it's where the entrance gates are. One notable execution that took place was of young Thomas Wilson, a young shepherd lad from St Boswell's that was found guilty of murdering a young shepherd. However, it was later discovered young Thomas was innocent of the crime, and his ghost is still said to walk the jail. It also takes us on to another ghost that's mentioned, Edwin MacArthur. Edwin MacArthur, again, was said to have been hanged, though nobody seems to know his crime. The jail stood for another 45 years, until it was closed in 1868. This was a bleak jail, this was a cold jail. If you go to the museum itself now, it still looks and feels the same as it did 150 years ago. And this jail housed all sorts of criminals. You had the notorious men's block, the house for the serious criminals, the murderers, the rapists, the thieves, the vagabonds. You also had a debtors wing. This was made for women and children or those of low crime, simply because they owed a debt or the memories of stolen loaf of bread because they couldn't afford to eat. And on the other side you had the women's wing. Again, debatable whether it was just women that was kept here, because it could have been shared with men and even children. And in the centre of the complex was the jailer's house. There's a few jailers mentioned in the history books. There was one of note that was punished by his own as he was committing crimes on the prisoners that he was meant to take care of. He's still meant to walk the jail, and you can hear his keys in his boots as he does his rounds. The jail closed in 1868. It would be another 100 years before it reopened. It was redesigned to take on the 1820s appearance. It was opened as the Jedburgh Jail Museum. That museum is still open today, and it's what we use for the ghost hunts. Behind it is a rather sizable cemetery that dates back to roughly the same time as the jail. It's secluded from the village, and dark nights get very dark. Where's your favourite? Or what's your favourite? When's your favourite time at Jedburgh?
Well, funnily enough, one of the questions that we get all the time is what's your favourite location, and actually we're in it.
Yeah.
Jedburgh is hands down my favourite location, and despite the room that we're in looking really light and inviting, some of the most terrifying experiences that I've had over the years that I've been doing this have been in this very room. We quite often do the planchette experiment in here, and the guests will come in, we'll dim the lights, we'll make it as dark as we possibly can, but you'll see, I don't know if you can see on the camera actually, but there are cabinets everywhere, and if we go outside of this room, there are more cabinets, and we were in here with a group of guests, and we heard what I can only describe as like a big brass plate being thrown onto the ground. Well, we know where all of the activity is, and for whatever reason, it was through there, and that's one thing that will really stick with me, because there's no reason why these things in these cabinets should be moving. Don't know what it was, but it stuck with me, and it really, really did scare me. So I really, really like this part of the building for unexpected activity. You know, when we talked about the noises from the Frank's box earlier as well, really, really interesting. On the flip side of that, in terms of a terror point of view and getting the most value for money out of being scared, it's got to be... We'll do that one again. Of course. But in terms of the other side of things, the fear factor, the value for money there, it's got to be the men's block, hasn't it? It is.
Men's block every time.
It's one of those locations where if you're into ghost hunting, you want to give something a go, get yourself to Jedburgh Jail, come along on a ghost hunt, because I'm right in thinking that it's actually closed to the public during the day. So it's not somewhere that you can come and just visit and have a look around like the rest of the museum. But we're really fortunate that we get access to go in there, and it is nothing short of terrifying. You know, everybody will know how brave I am. I'm always the first to put my hand up and say I'm not dead brave, I'll go anywhere. There'll be one or two people laughing, I think, watching that. But the men's block hits differently, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's just something about that atmosphere, and we always do the start of the night thing. And I think of how many call-outs I've done in there over the years. We do this for about 10 years now, 12 years. We do it 4 times a year. So you'll be talking 30 or 40 easy call-out sessions in there with groups, with a large group of people. And the amount exact same activity or the exact same reports, the same noises from the same cells, the same lights change on the same cells, the doors open on the same cells. People, I will say, people do faint. We do get a lot of people go down in Jed, and the amount of people that go down in the same place. Sometimes it can be quite terrifying. There's one time, I think it was about 3 or 4, wasn't it? And every time they stood in a certain place, boom, out, boom, out. And it was like, right, stop, somebody's going to get hurt. But it's always the same place. It's really quite strange. I don't know why. I've got no explanation for it. But it's always the same place. And then, when I do that myself, if I come in and do it myself, or when I'm with you guys, the amount of movement. Now, people say it's natural, it's your eyes changing with the lights. Some of the stuff I'm telling you, it's not natural. Like, you're seeing something move. In this corner of the eye, I will say it, but you turn around and look, and you know you've just seen something move across. The moment you're sitting standing at the top of the corridor, you see something move across the corridor. And you know you've seen it, you can try and convince yourself all the time, that's my eyes, no, it's the light. No, I've just seen somebody walk across there, I've just seen movement. And then the door make a noise and you think, oh, that's never excuse the French, I'll bleep that out. But you get that shock, and then you realise I'm actually going to go that way out. Where I've just seen something,
I've seen it and heard the noise.
And you think, oh, I really don't want to. But I will say, it's you're right. If you're a ghost hunting person or paranormal investigator, it's one of them you need to put on your bucket list and tick it off. It doesn't happen all the time. It's
no, it doesn't. So that's everywhere, isn't it?
It's like everything we always say, we can't guarantee it. But you do get some good.
What I also love about this place, and keeping it on brand, I don't believe in ghosts, but I would say that this is the location where I've seen most skeptics converted to at least start to believe things.
Ask questions.
And a lot of that I do believe is down to the power that's in the men's block. Because there are some really powerful things in there, powerful energies.
I don't know what they say. I mean, it's where they used to lock people up.
You step into a prison and it's in the dark, it's cold, stone walls. You're going to have a natural fear about it. You have to expect that that's going to happen. But there's still something that niggles away in the back of your mind. And like you say, when you think you've saw something out of the corner of your eye, and then it starts to build, and then there's a bang, and then there's a door.
I'm not so excited to was smiling at this podcast, but earlier on we had banging next door before we came on. Now, I've just absolutely had a heart attack.
The moth.
There's a moth. Straight across the mirror, the window, and I leave. I was like, sorry, I'm not recording.
We'll have to come back in now, it's being brave.
But it is weird. But that's because I'm on edge. You know what I mean? Because it is one of them places it puts us on edge. And you can't explain it.
I don't know why.
From the moment you open the gate, come walking in, you drive up the hill and you say, oh, this is it, this is one lovely place. Castle on the hill, Ed Sheeran's.
That's one of your traditions.
You know what I mean? And you come up the hill and then you pull in, and you go through the gate, and you go through the first bit. And then you come to the chair and it's just all of a sudden, it's like that, and it's just like, oh, you feel misery. And I suppose that's what's been felt here. You feel the misery.
Well, maybe you're feeling that little snapshot of history and that emotion that sticks with the building. We talk about energy staying in a particular place and that residual energy, then maybe that is what people are picking up on.
Yeah, so overall, as I say, we've been doing it many years now, and I would say we've been doing it for many years. It's because we like it, and we only like it if we get stuff happens. So I think there'll be many, many more years. I think we'll know a lot of stories. I have been confirmed as well. That's the other thing. We've had names, like surnames, first names, events, and when we spoke to people in the know the history they've confirmed that it is genuine stuff that we couldn't have done. Really, so. Well, that's Jedburgh Jail. Again, if it's one of your favourites, let us know. If there's somewhere you want us to talk about, again, let us know. We're going to talk about most locations.
I hope the camera picked that up.
Welcome back, guys. We're for the last part of the show. We're going to take 5 minutes. We're going to take some community questions. Thank you for all those people who emailed in. I've got Emerald, sorry I haven't got a surname, first name for you. We've Christy, we've had Anne, we've had Lee. It's one of those I really want to mention. We've had several people sending different questions. I think there's a list of about 37.
We've got a lot of work now, so thank you very much.
So thank you for them. We'll answer as many as we can over the coming weeks. The first community question, and I'm going to ask it, and I know it because 2 or 3 people asked, if you could hunt anywhere in the world. So cost, doesn't matter how much it
Doesn't
costs,
matter.
doesn't matter where you are, where would you go? Where's your ultimate?
You know, for me, it comes down to what we know and we experience. Loads of interesting things here. But take me to a different country, take me to somewhere where the culture is totally different about like spooky and paranormal things. I would love to go somewhere to see what a ghost hunt looks like in that context.
Yeah.
So take me to Egypt, you know, take me to that rich culture there, that rich history, and show me what they would do with the paranormal, or would they even do it? You know, would they touch it?
Some wood,
you know, like Machu Picchu, all those sort of things that you just think there must be so much that you could uncover. I would like to go somewhere like that, just
sort of different.
Total curveball.
Different way.
What about you?
Mine's quite easy. I would have to do Tower London. So if you're watching Tower London, please let me know. I love the place. I went there as a kid, as a tourist, been there over the years. Lost count how many times I've visited it. Can't afford it now. It's so expensive. And there's just something about that place. There's so much going on. Every room you go into, you know there's something happened. Whether it's been good or bad, you know there's some form of energy. Something's happened. You go down to the gate where the traitors were brought in. You go to the room where the two kids were held. I might have stopped off into a bit of a corner. I just think there's so much history there. It's so rich, and there's so much happened. I would love to do it. Yeah.
It's also like really well documented. So if you are getting hits, it's so easy to see, which is really, really nice when you get those hits and actually somebody can verify it.
I tell them, there's two or three played in my head when I was asked the question. But I was going to
ask a great question.
I Tower London, if I could do it anywhere just once, definitely Tower London. I thought it'd be fascinating. We'll probably take it 2 or 3 nights because of the size of it. But if anybody knows if you're watching, anybody who knows anybody who can let one in overnight, you know.
We're even looking though, like some of the big bucket list things that you would want to do, hospitals. People often say asylums, don't they, and places like that. We've been lucky enough to get to do those sort of places. For me, if we are talking about what's possibly within the realms of our ability, like a school, and I don't know if that's the teacher in me saying, no, I would love to do that, because we have Chatham, which we go to, which used to be a school. It's quite small, or somewhere like a big open secondary school that's not in use anymore. I'd love to see what's in there, because I don't know what you would expect to find.
We did do Linskill School in North
Shields
a good few years ago, and they changed hands management to stop doing the ghost hunts. We were doing that a few times. It was a strange place.
I've heard some interesting stories about it.
And again, I talk about live link a lot, because with live link, people are watching, they can see what you're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not showing you a bit of video going, this is a bit of video, have a look at it. You're watching it, I can't do it. And we've had like footsteps up and down. There was one day the corridor, honestly, the school was open. And we were out, we thought somebody had gone into the building.
Oh, really?
We went, nothing. Doors was perfectly still. But it sounded like a class had come out. When a class comes out, the doors open and the footsteps.
The hustle and bustle of a school,
So we went, what's that? Well, no, nothing.
Nothing there.
Nothing. And it's got darker, and the corridors got darker. I thought, if I've been to Linskill and Northshire, I'm sure you might have been. It's really up now. You might want it just looks like a normal building. But with the dark fella in the dark corridors, I don't know if it's because it's a school, so it takes back to being a child.
Yes.
I don't know. But it was interesting. There was a lot of noises, I would say. It was a location that was a lot of, not a lot of singing, but a lot of noises. Strange noises that you couldn't explain. So, that was, but again, it wasn't big. It wasn't like a big unit. Boarding school, maybe it's not boarding school, like, other than that's worth. And because it was another question about, is there anywhere you've tried to go, You know what I mean? That I haven't been.
Oh, right, okay.
Is a take place where I haven't been yet. And I said, well, you sort of said, we're quite lucky because you think, most people, oh, we're going to an old asylum or an old mental hospital. And we're lucky enough to go and find one. And we're lucky enough to get in there and have a go. So it's one to go to a funeral parlour. We found one. I don't know if we will go back with yours. I don't know if he's come back with us this time. But we found one. We went to Castle. So we are quite lucky at what we've covered over the years, and if you have a look at museums, community centres, stately homes, hospitals, you know, we've had a wide range of locations. I can't think of any type of building off the top of my head. I think a good old-fashioned boarding school would be a good one though. So maybe that's what we'll do.
It's your homework.
So can I find an old boarding school? If anybody knows of one, an old boarding school, that's why it's turned into a hotel now, or it's sitting empty, let us know.
Yeah.
And we can have a look into it and see if we can find a way into that. So, thank you for the questions.
Yes,
I think we've answered a couple, we'll answer more as the podcasts go on. But keep them coming, guys. Ghost podcast at hotmail.com or fill in the form on our website at ghostnortheast.co.uk. We'll try our best to answer as many questions as we can. We also see the community corner, which this is. If you want to appear, if you want to come talk about your experiences, if there's anything you want us to talk about, please let me know, because this podcast is only as good as you guys supporting us. So we want you involved. Until next time,
thank you very much.
Thank you, and don't have nightmares, but click subscribe. Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.